Hello everybody and welcome. Before we get started with Olivia today, just a couple quick announcements. First of all, I'm Matt. I'm the Senior Client Success Manager here at White House Custom Color, and I'll also be hosting the live event today. If you haven't followed along on our WHCC YouTube, make sure and check that out and hit the subscribe button so you get notified of all the cool content like we're going to be doing today with Olivia. Follow along on Instagram at WHCC Pro, and for all of your questions about WHCC products, sizing, details, options, all the great stuff, go to WHCC.com. If you do have questions for Olivia while we're going through the live today, make sure and put them into the chat. If you're watching this on the rewind, put them in the comments, and we will definitely be able to track her down and get answers to your questions. Yes. She's a very nice lady. I'm sure she'd be glad to help out. So welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our honor. So tell everybody that is watching along who you are, where you're at, a little bit about your photography studio, and then we'll start talking about Santa.
Okay. I'm Olivia Reed from Huntsville, Alabama. I specialize mostly in babies and kids. I do seniors and some corporate work on the side as well. Awesome. I've been doing this I've been a photographer for 20 years. I've been in my studio location for 11 years now.
Okay.
So
awesome. So a lot of water under the bridge in that time in 20 years. A lot of change in the industry, a lot of things, but you've kept that competitive edge.
Yes. And
the Santa experience is really a big piece of that.
It is a big hunk of my holiday season.
Yeah, I like how you described it as a big hunk.
It is. It's because it is.
So before we get started, we've got this awesome image that you sent us from when you were how old in this picture?
Oh, gosh. I was probably 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 5.
So when we were going through all the images that you sent, and I noticed this in there, I'm like, that is awesome. So do you think that this kind of led up to your business in the Santa experience?
Oh, I'm sure. Growing up, my mom would always dress us all very similar.
Yeah.
And we would always go and have our picture made with Santa. Every year, one of my brothers is screaming.
Those are the best.
And the reason I can figure out what age I am is my youngest brother wasn't born yet. So
okay.
I have 4 brothers. So
we'll just leave him out of this conversation.
He's screaming in a lot of the older pictures.
That's awesome. So tell us, how did the Santa experience begin? Like what was the catalyst for it?
How it started was when I had my son, his first Christmas, I took him to the mall.
Okay.
To see Santa. It was a generic mall Santa. They stuck him in his lap. He screamed. They took a blurry picture, and then they were trying to sell me this blurry picture of my kid with Santa, and I was like, hey, this is not going to do. I'm going to put him back in Santa's lap, and you're going to take one that's clear. And so after that, I was like, I can do a better experience. Like, I can give people a fun, beautiful, pleasant experience that's you're not waiting in line, and it's not just somebody standing behind the camera. You know, it's a beautiful piece that you keep year after year after year, and you come back year after year after year.
Right. And from that point, like how many years ago was that you started doing the experience?
It was 14 years ago.
Wow. And obviously it's evolved over time.
Very much so.
And grown. Mm-hmm. So during those first years, if you were going to tell our viewers today some little tips that saved you time, like what are some front of mind, like I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, I did this instead?
I think one of the things that has always been big for me is people don't need 30 minutes with Santa Claus. So doing a whole 30-minute thing with Santa Claus is just not necessary. Most people just want a quick interaction with Santa.
Yep.
And I learned that over time. So offering that quick come and go, click moment with Santa, where you still capture beautiful images with Santa, beautiful interactions with Santa. They're not there for the long haul. You're not making kids miserable. Their attention span is super short. So if you can get in, get what you need, and move on, it tends to work the best with Santa.
Yeah, and just to give everybody an idea of the volume, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, you're doing how many in 2 weekends?
In 2 weekends, I will do over 400 kids with Santa.
Wow, did everybody hear that? 400 kids in 2 weekends.
kids.
But you, when we were talking about this, I kind of went, whew, that's a lot. But you responded, you're like, no, this is like my favorite 2 weekends because it's so fast paced.
It's super fast paced. I know a majority of the kids, so I get to see everybody. Everybody has a different experience with Santa.
Yeah.
I get to see a lot of the same kids year after year, which is wonderful too, because their interaction with Santa also changes over the years. So I've watched a lot of kids who they went from a baby newborn with Santa loving on them, to a scared toddler, to a really happy teenager. I mean, and I still have teenagers who are, you know, my son still comes, but I have other teenagers who this is the same Santa. Their moms want the same picture, so they still come.
Well, of course it's the same Santa.
Yes.
There's only one Santa.
There's only one Santa, and I have him.
Right, yep, and he's yours.
And he's mine.
And that's good leverage to have.
It is great leverage to have.
And another thing before we move on here that I want people to understand is, you know, you talk about this being, you know, an elevated experience with that type of quantity, but the detail that you're putting in and how you know the kids, you know what they asked for last year, you're transferring that to Santa. He's able to process that and keep that magic
Right.
in a 5-minute session or 3-minute session. That's incredible. That is skill right there.
It is. It's an acquired skill.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I didn't
sure.
start out that way,
Yeah.
but over the years I've learned what works and what doesn't work,
Yeah.
and learning what works is what helps a lot.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So another thing that I think is insanely cool about this, if I can just describe it that way, is that you have designed this program as a client thank you.
Yes.
And you are not available, or Santa's not available for people who are not current clients until current clients have the opportunity.
Right.
So can you talk about how that schedule works a little bit?
So a couple of years ago, I was like, this is a great way to say thank you to my clients who are loyal to me, who, you know, book a session every year.
Yep.
This gives them an opportunity to come see Santa for free, and for me to capture their kids one more time. It gets me on their brain one more time before the end of the year, like, oh yeah, I need to go ahead and get on your books for the spring or for next year. But it also is just a way to say thank you that is unique and different.
Yeah.
The way that I've expanded on it is, once I do open it to the public, what the public does charge, and what I charge the public ends up covering the costs that I would, you know, normally have with a client thank you event.
Right, right.
So.
And it really is, it's such an awesome giving back, and it's so popular. You were describing to me, you know, in some of the early years, you had a line out of the studio, down the stairs, around the block of people waiting, you know, for this. And that was a learning experience too.
It was a learning experience.
But to have that type of response to an event, you know, you know you're going the right direction.
And that was still when it was invite only. Like, I didn't even open it to the public then.
Wow.
That was still just invite only, and that was when I didn't have time blocks. Now we break it down.
So while we're talking about logistics, of course Santa is a major piece of this. And like we already discussed, you actually have Santa. You
Right, I have Santa.
You have the Santa. For somebody who needs a Santa, how does that work? How do you get in contact with the North Pole?
So the North Pole has several groups of Santas that help the main man out.
Okay.
You can usually find them in Facebook groups.
Okay.
There are like official Santa groups. I think they have gatherings. Could be in a city near you. But a lot of them also advertise to local photographers.
Okay.
So there are several in my area that advertise to other photographers.
Yeah.
I just happen to have the one, and I've worked with him since day one.
So you've had Santa for 14 years. Wow, that's incredible. And to build that bond and relationship, and that you don't have to discuss how this is going to go because he just knows.
He knows the dates.
Yeah.
I usually give him the dates the same time I'm doing my Santa pictures this year. Like we go ahead and lock in.
Okay, for the following year.
For the following year.
Okay.
And I tend to do mine really early. Part of that is just for production. For my end is just making sure I have plenty of time.
Yeah, for sure. So then the actual space. So you have a brick and mortar studio space.
I do.
And you design a backdrop each year.
Each year.
So I'm assuming that changes from year to year.
It changes every single year.
Okay.
The last 2 years and this year, I also use it as an opportunity to work with another local business. So another local interior decorator has a brick and mortar store. She volunteered to decorate, so we kind of do it together.
Okay.
But she has helped decorate, and I have another store this year that wanted an opportunity to get in front of my client base.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that takes that off of your plate to be the primary.
While I can decorate for Christmas, it's just one less thing that I have to stress and worry about.
Right.
And it also helps promote another local business at the same time.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because then you don't have the cost. You're not buying a bunch of things that you have to store from year to year that you may or may not want to use again.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just a good giving back.
Right.
Good vibes all the way around. So I know there's a lot that goes into the whole experience of this, but in Olivia's words, how do you give your clients the ultimate Santa experience? Like, what are the pieces of that for somebody who's watching along and being like, oh, I would love to do that? Like, what are the main components?
So I have two kind of Santa experiences.
Okay.
One is a very short mini session, and that's for people who feel like they need more time. They maybe want their kids to have cookies and milk with Santa.
Okay.
Their kids are at the prime age for Santa. And I say prime age is when they're not screaming with Santa.
Even though
there is a
sometimes
magical age. There is a magical age with Santa, and it's usually between like 3, 4, 5, sometimes even older into 6. But it's where Santa, everything about Santa is real. They want to ask him questions. They want to pull on his beard. They want to say, you got me this last year. I really want this. My Santa's real good about keeping them on a real logistical, a little more grounded expectations as to what Santa's going to bring.
Yeah.
I also have families who last year their puppy died, and so Santa brought them a new puppy. And so for that experience, they got to do it at the studio. The mom snuck up there early, and we got to, the kids came in, and Santa's holding their brand new puppy. Santa's given some kids a trip to Disney World, so those kind of experiences go in the mini session where they kind of work with Santa a little bit longer. The other is the come and go. Okay. And so the logistics with come and go is it is 6 families every 30 minutes. Which sounds like, oh my God, how do you get all those people in? Some people have one child, the child sits there, smiles, and it's over with and done. Some people have 4 kids, and so the times don't necessarily, each family requires a different amount of time, and it all kind of seems to work out.
Yeah, and one thing I want to make sure and point out too, because I asked you this when we were talking, with your mini sessions and then the come and go, I didn't understand how that fit, but you said the mini sessions happen before
come and go. So it kind of is a good warm up for me. It's a good warm up for Santa. It kind of gets the flow going. Yeah. And then we hit the ball, hit the ground running with everything else.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And another cool thing, and we actually have a sample of it here, and I think we have a few images loaded. So tell us about these.
These are my Santa t-shirts. So every child who comes to see Santa gets to have a Santa t-shirt. I use it as advertising, and it has my logo on it. Kids wear it all throughout the Christmas season. I have kids who wear it all year round. I had a mom tell me the other day that her child had their Santa shirt on and wanted to wear it to school and was devastated when they weren't allowed to wear their Santa shirt to school. So I design a new Santa shirt every year. The one on the screen is last year's.
Okay. That's awesome. And it's more fun that the kids just want to wear them.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's fantastic. Because I remember when I was little, if I wanted to wear something to school, that means that I loved it.
Yes.
It was my thing. So we're going to get into a little bit more of the workflow of this.
Okay.
But while we're talking about the difference between the mini sessions and the come and go, for a mini session, are we talking 20 minutes, 15 minutes? 15 minutes. And you're capturing roughly how many images that the clients are able to choose from?
I usually narrow it down to around 15 to 20 images.
Okay.
That's if, I only guarantee 10 to 15,
Okay.
It's under promise to over deliver.
Right. And then for clarification, the mini sessions, whether they're a client or not, those are paid.
Those are paid.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
And then there's a product attachment to that, or they're choosing products,
They're
like
choosing
we're going to talk
products.
about in a minute. And then your come and go, as long as we're on that subject, and
Yes.
I may be jumping ahead, but we're going to talk a little bit about how that workflow goes.
Okay, so what I do is I create a giant Santa album in shoot proof. And so from that, I divide it up into days.
Okay.
And so every family that comes is not getting a separate album. That's, for me, it would just logistically impossible. So it's categorized by days. And so the families get to go in and choose. They will see other families in there, which I think is a highlight for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is seeing whose kids screamed and how it all worked out, because it's hilarious, and that's part of the fun of it too.
Yeah.
But the mini sessions get separate. They do get their own album.
Okay.
So for the client who wants their own album, who wants to choose product, who wants more time, wants Santa to read a book to them, who brings a specific list, wants to have the milk and cookies, they get their own album.
Got it. And on a Saturday, you're doing, let's just split it in half and say you're going to do 75 or 100 families. How long do you give yourself to build that and to have that ready for people to choose from on ShootProof?
So I do pretty quick edits in my turnaround. I tend to be pretty quick on the turnaround.
Okay.
Part of that is you build on the excitement of, we've just seen Santa.
Yeah.
We want to see our images from Santa, and we want to place a quick order with that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So for an event like this, and I know how many people you have helping you out, but can you tell everybody how many staff are involved and how does the flow of that work for crowd control?
For crowd
and
control.
all that stuff, yeah.
So I have a master list of everyone that I'm going to photograph that day. I typically go over all of that with Santa. When he gets there, we talk about any family that might have some special needs, or if there's anything specific the family has requested. If they know their kid's going to ask for something and they want to make sure that Santa, says no, or,
I love that.
anything like that, people know that they can go ahead and, that I can be aware of that.
Yeah.
And then I have an assistant she goes back and forth. So she is deciding, whoever came up, this family is next. She comes and tells me the family's names and the kids' names. Even though I have it on my list, she is verbally saying, these are the kids who are coming in.
Confirming.
They're confirming with me. And then I relay that information to Santa before they walk in. So Santa knows the children's names before they walk in.
That's incredible.
Then I have another person in the front room just handling crowd control. We usually have a few small activities for the children who are waiting. The way it's broken down, nobody should be waiting longer than 30 minutes, but that's really never going to happen the way it's broken down.
Yeah.
After I had the long line through the studio, down the stairs and around the block, I had to reset how all of that was handled.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I'm just going to ask you for clarification. So it's not just a free-for-all.
No.
You schedule people during a block of time, or do you give them here's your 5 minutes, here's your 5 minutes?
No.
Okay.
This is a good lesson learned. People are never on time, especially when you have such a small window. Things happen too.
Right.
Babies have issues, clothes need to be changed, all of those things. So they get a window of time. So I book 6 families in that one 30-minute window. So they can arrive anywhere in that 30-minute window.
Okay.
And then they just get their place in line once they do that. So it just kind of holds them a spot in line during that 30-minute window.
Okay. And then if somebody is running significantly behind, then they just kind of slide in.
They just kind of slide in because typically in the next 30 minutes, somebody's going to be early.
Got it. Yeah.
So
it all balances out.
It all balances out, and it just kind of creates a really clean flow where nobody's waiting in the stairwell, nobody is waiting a long time, especially with small children.
Right.
You know,
for sure.
that's the hard part. So.
Yeah. So I know all the kids call you Miss Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
What happens during the photo shoot with Miss Olivia? Now, I know that you're going to know the majority of these children, these families, but for the new clients that don't know you, 5 minutes with Santa, and a toddler and fear and just getting comfortable, that's a lot.
It is.
So can you kind of describe like what happens during the photo shoot? And I know we have a slideshow of some of your images loaded up too, so people can kind of see some of that magic, but how do you get that rapport?
I think it's just keeping an upbeat attitude, making sure it's fun, making sure they know Santa's their friend, talking Santa up. I think a lot of it is how you handle the children depending on their age. It's not really like showing them Santa, it's shoving them in Santa's lap and letting them figure out whose lap they're sitting in.
Got it.
But it's just reading the character of the child and just hoping for the best. Knowing that I also have such good rapport with Santa, I can say, hey, how about you stand up, go behind the chair and let me put the kid in the chair, because they will feel more comfortable with Santa standing behind them instead of sitting in Santa's lap, or those kind of situations.
And I'm sure after 14 years, you and Santa just have that unspoken,
yes.
He knows, things are probably happening where you don't have to give that direction.
And he works really well with the children too. So I think finding a Santa that has the personality, who truly, truly, truly loves children, because he doesn't necessarily want them to scream in his lap, but then he will be dramatic too, and if one's sound asleep, he'll pretend to be sound asleep, or if they're screaming, he'll scream too, and just, if you can't, just kind of have to laugh and roll with it all.
Right. So is this specifically for, if there's 3 siblings, is it just for the 3?
No.
Do you do each individual child?
I do each individual
Parents,
child. Parents can jump in if they want to.
Okay.
It is a very quick transition. The older children, it's easier to get them in and out. The younger ones want to keep running up to Santa. And I just let them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the experience. It's their day. And so it all just kind of works out. The parents who aren't going to be photographed are usually in the background, usually kind of helping corral children too.
Yeah.
But they're all in it for the experience. I mean, some of them bring grandparents to watch just because they know it's going to be dramatic and funny, and
That's fantastic.
I just let it roll.
So sitting here with you and knowing you as much as I do, and you're so professional and well-spoken, you sent us these fun behind-the-scene images of what some of these sessions look like and how you have, like kids wrapped around your arms and legs and hanging them upside down. I mean, is this really what it looks like?
There are some families that, that's exactly what it looks like, especially that kid. Some kids have different experiences with photographers and the camera, and they see me and they know that they need to turn it on, and some of them hit overdrive.
Yeah.
And so I just roll with it. I mean, that was 2 years ago, and this year that same kid walked in and was like, hey, Santa, and sat in his lap and did everything I asked him to. So
it's amazing what a couple of years will do.
It's true.
Yeah. And not every child is going to love Santa.
No.
And in your words, some of the best images are like the screaming bloody murder images. And I think that we have a few of those pulled out here too that are really fun to look at. I love this little girl. She's like, no, you're not getting my present.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Again, not every child is going to love Santa, but those are the classic ones. Those are the ones that people pull out year after year.
Right.
Because they're just so funny.
I love this one, how the little boy is just like, I'm just going to be perfect, while my sister loses her mind.
It's insane. I mean, it is really crazy how how the kids react. And again, it changes year after year.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had talked about earlier the workflow with Santa and the day of, and it's a lot.
It is a lot.
And I did, just so everybody knows, when you were telling me on our call about how you build one big album and everybody can see everybody's pictures, I'm like, is there any issue with that? Is there any privacy? And you right away were like, no, nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
And I can't help but think that that's just because of who you are, how you're communicating with these people, and making sure that they understand that's how it is.
When they sign up, there are several things that I make sure that they are completely aware of.
Yeah.
One is, it's a come and go window, so they're not, it's not a specific time. They are guaranteed time with Santa, but it is come and go. It's not let's sit and talk to Santa for 20 minutes.
Right.
I can kind of smoothly cut that off or transition how I need to. And Santa also is pretty good about knowing that we've hit our time limit and to keep going.
Yeah.
Another one is how loving Santa is. He is a grandpa. He loves to love on the kids. If there are some kids who are just like stranger danger, don't like being hugged by other adults, that kind of thing, we also make notes. Parents need to make me aware of that. And then the other thing is that these go into a giant album that they will go in and find their day and find their pictures. It is not them getting an individual album.
Yeah.
And everybody's very aware of that, and they're okay with that.
Yeah, that's great. And you're doing very quick turnaround. And to clarify too, you're not going back and meeting with these people individually.
No, I'm not. They are, it is all going into an online album, and they are ordering prints and cards, ornaments, all of that kind of stuff through Shootproof.
Okay, awesome. And that allows you to do this.
Right.
Logistically,
I could not ever get all of those families back in to order with me.
Right.
I have great displays of products when they are there, so they can look at pictures, look at the products, know what's going to be available to them.
Right. So then do you put urgency or have any limitations on how long the galleries are out and people? How does that work?
They usually give them about a week to make up their mind and choose, and then the gallery goes inactive.
Okay. So that way there is time to process through.
Right.
And people
if I gave an open-ended,
yeah.
I would just be processing Santa photos, and I'm still trying to do all of my other fall holiday work as well.
Yeah.
So I give a cutoff. That way I can get through, process, get all my orders placed through White House, get them in, and then get them distributed.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, and you're a mom.
And I'm a mom
and
too.
you have a family, and you want to enjoy the holidays. And we always stress that every year. Get stuff in early.
And that's why I do it early,
Yeah.
is so I can get, if I give, it takes me a couple of days to edit them, get them to them, they get a week, then I have to give myself time to process, get them in.
Right.
So, it's typically right around holiday time that they're getting it, and I'm not in the middle of the holiday rush here either.
Yeah, for sure. So we're just going to pause Santa for just a second, and we're going to talk about a couple of things that you actually saw being made here this morning. So these are products that your mini sessions would have access to, but the come and go, their stuff is a little bit more simple.
Right.
But we really wanted to show these today because they're absolutely beautiful. So you had sent this in. I want to make sure that I have this right side up. I didn't. So this is actually one of your clients.
Yes.
And this album is going to one of your clients.
Yeah.
So this is the white premium leather, which is just absolutely beautiful. I'll let you kind of page through here, Olivia. And this, just so everybody knows, so this is a 10 by 10. It's on the deep matte Fuji photo paper, which if you haven't played around with the deep matte paper or touched it, it's just this wonderful, soft, silky surface. But it's
my favorite.
It's your favorite, yes. And you watched this being made.
Yes,
out on the floor, which was really cool. It started off with just the spreads and the leather and the block and all the things, and we saw the team build this. So like, what is your impression after watching that all happen this morning?
I'm very impressed with the hands-on manner. How many different hands touch this one product, how much love and attention to detail goes into the product is
Yes.
amazing. So now when I sell it to a client, it has a whole new meaning
Right.
as to I can now open and show the details of each one of these little corners is hand folded, and
Right.
each part of this is handmade.
Lori always becomes part of the story when I ask
Yeah.
questions like that, because of how she details all those corners.
Everything
Yeah, it's
is-
incredible.
yeah.
It's always amazing to me, and I've been here forever, that something that is completely handcrafted like that gets in and out so quickly.
Yeah, the 2-day turnaround is,
Yeah, it's
after seeing it made, I'm like, wow, they really work hard to get these turned around as fast as they do.
yes, absolutely. And that was the premium leather. Now this is an image box.
Yes.
And this happens to be one of my favorites too. I love the chrome.
The chrome.
The chrome fabric. It's fantastic. So I just love this image of this little guy. I love the composition of it. And this actually lays open flat like that, and then you have your 8x10 prints that are inside.
Yes.
These are packed back to back, and these are on matte board.
Yes,
correct?
they're the deep matte photo paper as well.
Yes, of course, because that's your favorite.
Because that's my favorite.
Yes, and we watched this one come to life too, which was really cool. So if you have any questions about either of those products, you can definitely go check out the website. But I just wanted to show those while you were here, since you actually saw those come to life today.
Yes.
So let's go back to Santa.
Okay.
Okay, so we all know that there's a need for marketing, for promotion, for all the things to keep people thinking about your studio.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel is the biggest value add of this to Olivia Reed Photography?
One of the things, it keeps people talking about me and my photo studio year round. People start asking me when I'm doing Santa in June.
Wow, that's planning ahead.
Yeah. People start asking, oh, if I meet somebody and they're like, oh, you're the photographer, you have the great Santa. It's kind of building on that reputation of not only do I offer a great quality photo shoot and fun experience throughout the year, but there's this really fun thing that if you are a client, you know about it, you can get your spot ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that's one of the really nice things. It's just great for advertising.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And it's a feel-good thing.
It is.
Yeah, in the holidays, in this day and age, you go to the store and people are putting Christmas stuff out months ahead of time, to be able to have this to look forward to get the holiday season going. The kids love it, parents love it, and you love it.
I do, yeah.
Which that's fantastic. So just one more quick question before we let you go here.
Okay.
I want to make sure and touch on this. You were telling me on the phone that you have your Huntsville location, but then you were going to open a second spot where you're doing Santa. Is that right?
Yeah, so this year I will do the first weekend at my studio in downtown Huntsville. And then there's another tiny little town called Mooresville, Alabama.
Okay.
And they have a business there called 1818 Farms.
Okay.
They have a sheep farm. They have a flower farm there. They have a lot of different handmade products. They acquired a cottage, and because I've worked with them since they started, they were like, hey, would you want to do something different here? So a lot of my setups at my studio are more contemporary.
Okay.
The look is more contemporary with the all white and it being downtown. So I'm going to offer a more traditional look there, which means I have to decorate twice, but
That's
it's okay. It's okay. It appeals to a lot of clients. When I don't do the traditional red and green, some people are like, oh, but I love traditional. So now I'm offering a more traditional option. I'm still not using red, but Santa will be the only thing that is the burgundy in the photo.
Right.
But
So really your program continues to evolve.
yes.
Constantly, and it continues to grow year after year. So you're going to have to start cloning yourself pretty soon.
Pretty soon, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
with
for
us.
having
This
me.
has been a great conversation.
wonderful.
It's really fun to talk about Santa. When you gave us the idea of like this would be a really good topic, I'm like, that's fun. We haven't done that before. We're mid-September already, which is hard to believe.
It
you know,
is
that we're
hard to
only just a
believe.
few months away, but it's just it's a great kickoff to a busy fall and a great peak season. So
Yeah.
we really appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So, and thank you for joining us. And just a couple quick reminders, if you haven't subscribed to the WHCC YouTube, make sure and do that so you get notified of cool stuff like this. Follow along on Instagram at WHCC Pro. And for all of your product details, questions, anything you want to know about WHCC, hit up our website at WHCC.com. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.